An 18-year-old groom, full of life and dreams, marries a 65-year-old wealthy woman. Their love story sparks shock and gossip, but no one expected the tragedy that would follow. Now, the young groom is dead, and his bride stands at the center of a murder mystery. What went wrong in their whirlwind romance? James Andrew Thompson was just 18 years old, a young man full of hope and excitement for the future. He lived at 123 Elm Street in Springfield, Illinois, where everyone knew him for his friendly smile and positive attitude. Fresh out of high school, James had big dreams and believed that life was full of endless possibilities. He was the kind of person who trusted others easily, always looking for the good in people, even when others warned him to be cautious. Growing up in a small town, James was close to his family and friends, and he was eager to begin his adult life and find his own path. Although he was still figuring out who he was, James had one thing he was sure of: he believed in love at first sight. This belief, along with his innocent and somewhat naive view of the world, would soon lead him into a complicated and dangerous relationship. Gloria Harrison was 65 years old, a wealthy woman who had spent her life building a successful business empire. She lived in a grand mansion, filled with expensive furniture and everything money could buy. Over the years, Gloria had become known for being a powerful and demanding person. She always liked things her way and expected everyone around her to follow her rules. Her strong personality made her intimidating, and most people found it hard to say no to her. Despite her wealth and success, Gloria wasn't known for being kind or caring. Instead, she was seen as controlling and manipulative, often using her money and influence to get what she wanted. People whispered behind her back, calling her a Bridezilla, because she was so difficult to please, especially in her relationships. Even with all her riches, Gloria's need for control and attention left her feeling lonely, and she was always searching for someone new to admire her and do as she wished. James and Gloria's meeting was unexpected. James, a young man just starting his adult life, worked part-time at a local store in Springfield, Illinois. It was a small job, but he enjoyed meeting people, and one of those people was Gloria Harrison. She often came into the store, and James, being his friendly and polite self, would always help her with a smile. Gloria noticed James's youthful energy and charming personality, and soon, what began as casual conversations turned into something more serious. Despite their huge age difference, Gloria, a 65-year-old woman of wealth and influence, became interested in James. She was drawn to his innocence and admired how much attention he gave her. For James, Gloria was unlike anyone he had ever met. She was rich, sophisticated, and experienced in life, qualities that made him feel excited and curious. He had never known someone with such luxury, and the idea of being with her seemed like a thrilling adventure. However, their relationship quickly began to show problems. Gloria, with her controlling and demanding nature, started making decisions for both of them. She wanted everything her way: where they went, what they did, and even how James should behave. At first, James, being young and naive, didn't mind. He thought this was part of loving someone, but soon, he realized that Gloria's controlling behavior was overwhelming. He felt like he was losing himself, but he struggled to stand up to her. What started as an exciting romance for James turned into a situation where he was trapped, unable to keep up with Gloria's constant demands. The relationship became a battle of control, with Gloria always winning, and James trying his best to hold on to the love he once thought was real. James and Gloria's marriage was nothing short of a shock to everyone who knew them. When James, just 18 years old, announced that he was going to marry Gloria, a 65-year-old wealthy woman, people couldn't believe it. His family, who had always seen him as a kind and trusting young man, were deeply concerned. They knew about Gloria's controlling and manipulative nature and feared that James was being taken advantage of. His parents tried to talk him out of it, but James, always dreaming of love and adventure, refused to listen. He believed that he had found true love and was ready to prove everyone wrong. Gloria's friends and the high society she was a part of had a very different reaction. Many people whispered behind her back, calling the marriage strange and inappropriate. Some thought Gloria was going through a midlife crisis, trying to feel young again by marrying someone who could be her grandson. Others believed she was simply using James to fulfill her desire for control, knowing that he was too young and inexperienced to resist her demands. In the small town of Springfield, Illinois, where everyone knew each other, the gossip spread like wildfire. People talked about how odd the couple looked together. James, young and full of life, standing beside Gloria, who was old enough to be his grandmother. Some even made jokes about their marriage, saying it wouldn't last long. James's friends were worried for him, but they felt helpless as he seemed blind to the reality of the situation. Despite the negative reactions from family, friends, and society, the couple went ahead with the wedding. The ceremony itself was small and private, mostly because Gloria didn't want any distractions. She liked having control over every detail, from the decorations to the guest list. James, on the other hand, just wanted to make Gloria happy, even if it meant giving up his own wishes. Gloria's Bridezilla tendencies were clear from the start. She wanted everything to be perfect, but only by her standards. When it came to planning the wedding, she took full control. Every detail had to be exactly how she wanted it. From the color of the flowers to the food on the menu, Gloria made all the decisions without asking James for his opinion. She also had strict rules for how things should be done. If something didn't go her way, she would lash out, getting angry and blaming others. She demanded that the wedding planner follow her every word and fired people who didn't meet her high expectations. Even in her relationship with James, she tried to control every part of his life. She told him what to wear, where to go, and who he could talk to. Gloria wanted things done her way, all the time. Her need for control was so strong that it left James feeling trapped and powerless, with no say in his own life or their marriage. As time went on, the cracks in James and Gloria's relationship became impossible to ignore. What started as an exciting, whirlwind romance turned into something much darker. James, once full of energy and hope, seemed to lose his spark. He started avoiding his friends and family, too embarrassed to admit that his life with Gloria wasn't what he had imagined. He felt trapped by her constant demands and controlling behavior. Gloria's need for control only grew worse after the wedding. She became more demanding, watching James's every move and getting upset over the smallest things. If James didn't do exactly what she wanted, she would explode in anger. He could no longer make simple choices for himself, like what to wear or where to go. Every part of his life was controlled by Gloria. The tension between them grew daily. James tried to please her, but nothing ever seemed to be enough. He began to feel like a prisoner in his own home, and it was clear that he was struggling. His once bright eyes were now clouded with stress and fear. Friends noticed the change in James. He looked tired and withdrawn, no longer the cheerful, carefree young man they knew. They worried about him, but he pushed them away, too ashamed to admit that his marriage was falling apart. Even though he didn't say it out loud, people could see that James was heading down a dangerous path, and they feared that something terrible might happen. The strain was becoming too much for James to handle. The tension, the control, and the constant fights were building up, and everyone could sense that things were headed for disaster. As the weeks passed after their wedding, the tension between James and Gloria became more pronounced. Every day, Gloria imposed new rules and expectations. She would scrutinize James's every action, from the way he dressed to the way he spoke. If he wore something she didn't approve of, she would criticize him harshly. If he didn't follow her plans exactly, she would become furious. This constant pressure made James feel like he was walking on eggshells. He couldn't make a single decision without Gloria's approval. James tried to voice his frustrations, but every attempt to speak up was met with anger or dismissal. Gloria would belittle his feelings, telling him he was being unreasonable or that he didn't understand how important her plans were. This manipulation made James question his own thoughts and feelings. He began to doubt himself, believing that he was the problem. The isolation James felt grew deeper. He started avoiding his friends and family, afraid they might see how unhappy he was or, worse, get involved. Gloria insisted on keeping their problems private, and James, eager to avoid more conflict, complied. He felt trapped in a world where his only escape seemed to be to try and please Gloria, even though it never seemed to be enough. The strain of constantly trying to meet Gloria's demands was wearing him down. He no longer had time for his hobbies or interests, His life revolved around meeting Gloria's expectations. The once exciting adventure of their marriage had turned into a suffocating routine. James's enthusiasm and hope were replaced with exhaustion and dread. The more Gloria pushed for control, the more James felt like a puppet with invisible strings pulling him in every direction. He felt manipulated and powerless, unable to find a way out of the oppressive grip Gloria had on his life. The walls seemed to close in, and the freedom he had once cherished felt like a distant memory. Each day, James struggled to hold on, knowing deep down that something had to give, but unsure of how to escape the nightmare that his life had become. Key moments of conflict between James and Gloria highlighted the growing tension in their relationship. One major argument arose over money when Gloria wanted to invest in a property, but James expressed concerns about the risks. Gloria's anger and dismissal of James's opinions made him feel belittled and powerless, as her financial authority overshadowed his input. Jealousy also caused strife. At a social event, Gloria saw James talking with a female friend and accused him of flirting. Despite his explanations, Gloria's public confrontation left James humiliated and feeling trapped, unable to interact with friends without facing her harsh judgment. Gloria's control extended to James's social life, dictating who he could see and where he could go. When James wanted to attend a friend's birthday party, Gloria threatened to cut off financial support if he went. This conflict left James struggling between keeping his social connections and fearing loss of support. Finally, household decisions became a battleground. Gloria made all the choices about their home, dismissing James's suggestions for changes. Their arguments over these decisions highlighted how Gloria's controlling nature made James feel increasingly powerless. Each of these conflicts deepened the divide in their relationship, setting the stage for the tragedy to come. Several external characters noticed the growing tension between James and Gloria but felt powerless to intervene. James's family, including his parents and siblings, saw the changes in him and were deeply concerned. They observed how James had become withdrawn and stressed, no longer the cheerful young man they once knew. Despite their worries, they felt helpless, unable to persuade James to reconsider his marriage without risking a deeper rift. Friends from James's old neighborhood also noticed his unhappiness. They saw him less frequently and noted his growing exhaustion. Although they tried to reach out and offer support, James's reluctance to talk about his problems and Gloria's tight control kept them from offering much help. Neighbors in Springfield, familiar with both James and Gloria, sensed the strain. They heard the whispers and saw the signs of conflict, but felt uncomfortable getting involved in what seemed like a private matter. Their concern remained unspoken, as they feared the backlash of trying to intervene in such a tumultuous relationship. These external characters, though aware of the growing tension, were largely powerless to affect the situation, leaving James feeling isolated and trapped in his troubled marriage. The night of the murder descended with an unsettling calm. Gloria's mansion, usually vibrant and bustling, now stood eerily silent, bathed in the ghostly glow of dim lamps and shrouded in thick fog. The garden, once lively, looked cold and desolate under the pale streetlights. Inside, the atmosphere was tense and oppressive. Gloria, known for her demanding nature, was in a particularly volatile mood, while James, worn down by weeks of conflict, moved with a heavy sense of dread. Their arguments had escalated throughout the day, creating an air thick with anxiety and unspoken fears. The mansion felt like a pressure cooker, with every creak and distant sound amplifying the growing tension. The ticking clock in the hallway seemed to mark the heavy silence, each tick a reminder of the imminent confrontation. The stage was set for a night that would end in tragedy, with the atmosphere crackling with suspense and the promise of impending horror. The events leading up to James's death unfolded amidst the growing tension of that fateful night. The evening started with another heated argument between James and Gloria. Their clash, which had begun over a minor disagreement about household chores, quickly escalated into a full-blown confrontation. Gloria's temper was at its peak, her voice sharp and accusatory as she berated James for what she saw as his failures and disobedience. As the argument reached a boiling point, Gloria, overwhelmed by her anger and frustration, stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. James, feeling trapped and desperate, attempted to calm himself in the study, hoping the argument would die down. However, the strain of the day had taken its toll, and the atmosphere in the mansion remained thick with unresolved tension. Gloria returned, her mood even darker. She seemed to be searching for something to take her anger out on, and James, caught in her crosshairs, became the target once more. The argument continued, with voices raised and accusations flying. In the heat of the moment, something tragic happened. The specifics of the event are shrouded in uncertainty. Some say it was a sudden, tragic accident, perhaps a heated push or a moment of reckless anger that led to James's fatal fall. Others speculate that Gloria's actions were more deliberate, a culmination of her intense frustration and control over James. Whether it was a tragic accident or a calculated act of violence, the outcome was devastating. James was found later that night, lifeless in the study. The scene was chaotic, with overturned furniture and signs of a struggle. Gloria, in a state of shock and denial, initially claimed it was an accident, but the evidence suggested a more complex and troubling reality. As the investigation unfolded, questions remained. Was James's death the result of a sudden, tragic misstep in the heat of an argument, or was it the final, deliberate act of a woman whose controlling nature had reached a breaking point? The mystery of that night lingered, leaving behind a trail of grief and unanswered questions. After James's death, Gloria's reaction was a blend of apparent grief and manipulative tactics. Initially, she claimed the incident was an accident, presenting herself as heartbroken and in shock. She cried publicly and expressed her sorrow, trying to convince everyone of her innocence. As the investigation began, Gloria's attempts to cover up the truth became evident. She inconsistently described the events, and her story changed under questioning. Gloria also tried to control the narrative by persuading friends and neighbors to support her version and discourage any doubts. She was seen cleaning the study where James was found, removing or rearranging items to downplay the violence. Gloria even suggested that James might have been unstable, trying to shift suspicion onto him. Despite her efforts, Gloria's behavior raised red flags. Her inconsistent accounts and attempts to manipulate the scene drew the attention of investigators, leading to growing suspicion about her role in the tragic incident. The police investigation into James's death began promptly, with officers arriving at the mansion shortly after the 911 call. Initially, Gloria's emotional display seemed to fit the profile of a grieving widow, but as the investigation unfolded, inconsistencies in her story started to emerge. Detectives quickly noted several red flags. Gloria's account of the events changed multiple times, raising doubts about her credibility. She claimed James's death was accidental, but her descriptions of the night's events didn't align with the evidence at the scene. The study, where James was found, showed signs of a violent struggle, overturned furniture and broken objects, which contradicted Gloria's account of a simple accident. Witnesses reported seeing Gloria cleaning the area, which suggested an attempt to alter or obscure the evidence. Forensic analysis revealed additional inconsistencies. The physical evidence, including traces of blood and signs of a recent struggle, pointed to a more intense confrontation than Gloria had admitted. The nature of James's injuries suggested a possible violent altercation rather than a mere accident. Further investigation into Gloria's behavior revealed attempts to manipulate those around her. She had pressured friends and neighbors to support her version of events, and her erratic actions only fueled suspicion. The combination of inconsistent statements, tampered evidence, and forensic findings led detectives to focus increasingly on Gloria as the primary suspect in James's death. As the investigation into James's death continued, several potential motives for Gloria's actions emerged. Gloria's need for control was a significant factor. Her domineering behavior and intense desire to control every aspect of James's life could have driven her to violence, especially as James tried to assert his independence. Jealousy also played a role. Gloria's possessiveness and distrust, particularly when James interacted with others, might have led her to a violent reaction if she felt threatened. Financial reasons provided another motive. Gloria's substantial wealth and the potential impact of James's presence on her finances could have made her see his death as a way to protect her assets and regain control. These motives, combined with the evidence, painted a troubling picture of Gloria's possible reasons for the tragic event. The forensic details, witness testimonies, and key revelations provided a clearer picture of what led to James's death and increasingly implicated Gloria. Forensic examination of the study where James was found uncovered significant signs of a violent struggle. Blood stains and broken furniture indicated a chaotic confrontation. The nature of James's injuries, including blunt force trauma, suggested that the altercation had been severe and forceful rather than accidental. Additionally, forensic experts found traces of cleaning agents, revealing that Gloria had attempted to remove evidence from the scene. Witness testimonies played a crucial role in unraveling the truth. Friends and neighbors reported seeing Gloria acting unusually anxious and controlling in the days before James's death. Several witnesses noted that Gloria had pressured them to support her version of the events and discourage any doubts about her innocence. Neighbors also observed her cleaning the study with an unusual intensity, which raised suspicions about her tampering with the evidence. Key revelations further pointed to Gloria's involvement. Her accounts of the night's events were inconsistent and changed frequently under questioning, casting doubt on her credibility. Moreover, her efforts to manipulate friends and family to support her version of the story highlighted a pattern of deception and control. The combination of forensic evidence, witness statements, and Gloria's erratic behavior intensified the focus on her as the primary suspect in James's murder. In the court trial that followed, both the prosecution and defense presented compelling arguments to sway the jury. Prosecution's arguments. The prosecution focused on proving Gloria's guilt by presenting a case of premeditated violence. They highlighted the forensic evidence of a violent struggle, including bloodstains and broken furniture, which contradicted Gloria's claims of an accidental death. The prosecution stressed Gloria's erratic behavior, such as her inconsistent statements and the suspicious cleaning of the crime scene, as clear indications of her guilt. Witness testimonies painted Gloria as a controlling and jealous individual, whose violent reactions stemmed from her need to dominate and control James. The prosecution argued that Gloria's actions were driven by a mix of jealousy and a desire to maintain control, leading her to commit murder when James attempted to assert his independence. Defense's arguments. The defense contended that James's death was a tragic accident, not a deliberate act of violence. They argued that the evidence of broken furniture and blood could be misinterpreted, suggesting that the struggle might have been initiated by James rather than Gloria. The defense also challenged the credibility of witness testimonies, claiming that their statements were influenced by personal bias or misunderstanding of the events. They portrayed Gloria's actions, such as cleaning the scene, as consistent with someone in shock and trying to manage a sudden tragedy, rather than as evidence of guilt. The defense aimed to create reasonable doubt about Gloria's involvement, suggesting that the incident was a result of unforeseen circumstances rather than a calculated crime. The trial was marked by intense drama as both sides worked to persuade the jury. The prosecution sought to link forensic evidence to Gloria's motive and behavior, while the defense aimed to question the evidence's interpretation and the reliability of witness accounts. The outcome hinged on whether the jury believed Gloria's actions were driven by premeditated intent or the result of a tragic accident. The courtroom was filled with dramatic moments that intensified the trial. Gloria's demeanor fluctuated between composed and distressed. While she initially appeared tearful and emotionally affected, her composure often faltered under intense cross-examination, revealing frustration and anxiety. A particularly shocking moment occurred when a former friend testified about Gloria's controlling nature. This testimony illustrated Gloria's manipulative behavior, reinforcing the prosecution's claims about her motive and tendencies. Forensic experts also delivered a striking testimony, describing the violent struggle at the crime scene in detail. Their account of the severity of James's injuries and the chaos in the study starkly contrasted with Gloria's claim of an accidental death, vividly painting the picture of a confrontation. Gloria's reactions to the testimonies were telling. She was visibly shaken when confronted with the evidence and broke down in tears, claiming the court misunderstood her actions. These dramatic moments, combined with the compelling evidence, created a tense and gripping atmosphere in the courtroom. As the trial drew to a close, the atmosphere in the courtroom grew electric with suspense. The final arguments had been made, and the jury retired to deliberate. The weight of the evidence and the dramatic testimonies left everyone on edge, waiting for the verdict that would determine Gloria's fate. In the hushed silence of the courtroom, the tension was palpable. Gloria, her face a mask of anxious hope, sat with her legal team, occasionally glancing toward the jury room. Her hands, once trembling with emotion, now gripped the edge of her chair tightly, betraying her mounting anxiety. The gallery was filled with spectators and media, all keenly aware of the high stakes. The reporters whispered among themselves, their eyes glued to the jury room door, eager to report the outcome. Friends and family of James sat silently, their faces a mix of hope and dread, each person processing their own emotions as they awaited justice. Finally, the jury re-entered the courtroom, their expressions unreadable. The judge called for silence as the foreperson stood to read the verdict. The air seemed to thicken with each passing second. Gloria's breath hitched, her eyes locked on the foreperson, waiting for the words that would change everything. When the verdict was announced, the courtroom erupted with reactions, gasps, murmurs, and a mix of relief or disappointment. The suspense that had built over the trial reached its peak in these final moments, as the decision was revealed and the consequences of Gloria's actions were set into motion. As the courtroom awaited the final verdict, the tension was nearly unbearable. Gloria sat rigidly in her seat, her eyes fixed on the jury as the foreperson prepared to announce the decision. The room was filled with a heavy silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of papers and the quiet shuffling of feet. When the foreperson finally stood and began to read, every word seemed to echo through the chamber. The verdict was clear and definitive. Gloria Harrison was found guilty of the murder of James Andrew Thompson. The announcement was met with a mix of reactions. Gasps and murmurs filled the room as the gravity of the decision sank in. Gloria's face went pale, and she appeared momentarily stunned before her expression hardened into a mask of resignation. Her supporters, who had held out hope for her acquittal, were visibly dismayed, while those seeking justice for James felt a somber relief. As the courtroom cleared, the weight of the verdict settled over everyone present. Gloria's conviction marked the end of a dramatic and emotional trial, bringing a resolution to the tragic case and leaving a lasting impact on all involved. The case of James Andrew Thompson and Gloria Harrison offers a profound reflection on the dynamics of control and the tragic consequences that can arise from it. The case underscores the critical importance of addressing issues of control and manipulation within relationships before they escalate into violence. Preventing the tragedy. The tragic outcome might have been avoided if there had been earlier intervention to address the controlling and manipulative behaviors exhibited by Gloria. Recognizing and addressing signs of an unhealthy relationship dynamic, such as extreme jealousy, controlling behavior, and emotional manipulation, could have prevented the situation from deteriorating. Seeking counseling or support to manage and resolve these issues might have provided a pathway to a healthier relationship or even an amicable separation. Lessons on control. This case highlights the dangers of unchecked control in relationships. Gloria's need for dominance and control over James created an environment of constant tension and conflict. Her inability to manage her emotions and accept James's desire for independence ultimately led to a tragic and violent confrontation. The case serves as a stark reminder of the destructive potential of control when it becomes obsessive and overpowering. It also illustrates the importance of recognizing and addressing unhealthy relationship patterns early on. Ensuring open communication, fostering mutual respect, and setting healthy boundaries are crucial for maintaining a balanced and non-toxic relationship. The case encourages individuals to seek help if they find themselves in a relationship characterized by manipulation and control, and to advocate for a culture that supports healthy, respectful interactions. In summary, the case of James and Gloria serves as a somber reminder of the potential consequences of control in relationships and underscores the need for awareness and intervention to prevent such tragedies. As we reflect on the tragic case of James Andrew Thompson and Gloria Harrison, we are reminded of the profound impact that unchecked control and manipulation can have on our lives. This case is more than just a story of crime and punishment. It is a stark reminder of the importance of healthy relationships built on mutual respect and trust. In the end, the lines between love and control can blur dangerously, leading to devastating consequences. We must ask ourselves, how can we recognize and address these red flags before it's too late? How can we foster environments where people feel safe to express their needs and boundaries without fear of retaliation or violence? Let this case be a call to action for all of us to confront and challenge unhealthy dynamics in our relationships and communities. The tragic death of a young man should serve as a powerful reminder to strive for relationships grounded in equality, respect, and understanding. As we move forward, let us carry this lesson with us, ensuring that love does not become a guise for control, and that no one's voice is silenced by the darkness of manipulation. As we conclude this examination of the tragic case of James Andrew Thompson and Gloria Harrison, we invite you to share your thoughts and theories about what led to this heartbreaking outcome. What do you think were the key factors that drove this relationship to such a tragic end? We'd love to hear your perspectives and insights, so drop your comments below. Your feedback and theories can add to the conversation and help us all better understand the complex dynamics at play. If you found this video informative and thought-provoking, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest content. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to engaging with you in the comments.